Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel and very happy, merry, healthy, peaceful Christmas to you all, or certainly those of you who celebrate Christmas. Season's greetings to everyone. It's Christmas Eve here in London. I'm pushing off starting the journey I've got to make today by quickly recording for you my favourite eye products of 2019, as I promised. I also promised the nail polishes. I haven't had time to look those out because they're kind of dispersed in the various drawers. So that may be one for after Christmas. But the eye products, it's very easy for me to pick out my favourites. This year, it's been a year of Tom Ford for me. Of all the eye products that I've bought, Tom Ford palettes have been the ones that I've really enjoyed. That's not to say that I haven't liked some other products, and particularly eye palettes, because it's been those really that I've enjoyed this year. I think I've got enough pencils and creams to last me for forever. I have enjoyed Chanel. I think their spring, quite unusual colour collection was nice, but I haven't worn it a lot. The one that I've worn the most and would make the favourites from Chanel is part of the Les Beige collection. And it's a really classic selection of neutrals in different finishes that you really can't go wrong. It's a really good size for travelling. And if I compare it with the Tom Ford palettes, which I do love, they're roughly the same size. So if you're going to take one with, maybe a cream and maybe a single that's a bit more exciting, this might be the good option when you're travelling a lot. And I have used this a lot. I really like this quite neutral, cool beige, but all of the colours really, apart from the dark brown and the more bricky brown, although I have used that as well. I've used quite a bit, although you can see looks barely touched. So that was Les Beige called Les Indispensables, the indispensable ones, which was a good name for them, and that was definitely a favourite. But it was really the Tom Fords that I loved. There were quite a few releases this year. I've picked out four. I loved the Les Neiges collection. I bought all three. The two that I very much favour have been Soleil Neige, which I didn't expect to love as much as I do, because it's got those two quite dark shades there, which I tend to steer away from. A white, which is great, but it's really always corner of the eye. And then one of the beautiful beiges. Yeah. But I've found that I've worn this quite a lot. Very, very wearable. Even this really beautiful bluey grey, which kind of pulls silver in different lights. I really love that shade. So I have worn this one quite a bit. The other one that I expected to love, and I do, is the Soleil et Lune. I was very attracted to this when I first saw the collection on Instagram because of that gorgeous green up there. Not the easiest shade to wear all the time, although I do use it, often use it as a kind of pop in the middle of the mobile lid, even with quite a otherwise neutral eye. It's just so pretty, so pretty. But there's another lovely two neutrals, a warmer one and a cooler one, and a nice cream to brighten up the corner of the eye. So that's a lovely palette. It doesn't look as if I've touched it, but I have. These shades are so pigmented that they last for ages. So I did love Les Neiges, and if you can get your hands on them, I'm not sure if they're sold out yet. I haven't looked. Tom Ford did a lot of other releases, a mixture of the wet and dry, and then just the 4 colours. And I've bought most of them. And some stunning colour combinations. I think there's one called Leopard Sun springs to mind, but they're not necessarily the most wearable that I would say were favourites. If you're a collector, you're going to get them. So I picked out 2. One, again, which I did not expect, and I think it's quite similar to the Soleil Neige palette that I've just shown you, and this was Double Indemnity. And there we go. Again, you've got the kind of 2 neutrals that I would expect to like. The beautiful taupey colour, which you can see I've dug into quite a bit, pulls a bit greenish, so I quite like the greens. And then a beautiful kind of mid-toned brown. So wearable. I didn't expect to like the black. It's a bit glittery, but I do use it as a liner. They're just so pigmented, so beautiful to wear, as quite a neutral palette, actually. So if I had to choose between Double Indemnity and the Tom Ford Soleil Neige that I just show you again, I think I probably would go with the Double Indemnity, but they're both beautiful palettes. And if you missed out on the Soleil Neige one, then Double Indemnity is still available, and it's a lovely palette. But probably my all-time favourite of the year. Not really a surprise for me, because my all-time favourite Tom Ford is one that's been long discontinued, called Enchanted, which was one of the first, if not the first, wet and dries. And as soon as I saw this one, Virgin Orchid, on the American YouTube channels, because they always get them first, I knew I was going to love it, because the colour scheme is very, very similar to the old Enchanted. Enchanted is a bit cooler than this selection, particularly in the brown, which is definitely a bit warmer in Virgin Orchid. But this is, for me, just a gorgeously... What's the matter with my fingers today? A gorgeously wearable palette, and you can actually see that I have done a bit of damage up there with this beautiful rose gold shade. I've got a light on the side because it's so dark, which is why there's a bit of reflection. How pretty is that? Just love that peachy shade. But the taupe is lovely too. I will say it's a bit drier consistency when worn dry than a lot of the Tom Ford palettes, but still very workable. And then you've got the usual white cream, quite a bleached out white, and a fairly matte. It isn't matte, there is a little bit of shimmer in it, but by some of the Tom Ford palette standards, a fairly matte brown. So you've got a good selection there to work with on a daily basis. And I find myself reaching for that one a lot. No real issues at all with the consistency. They're beautiful, even though that one is a bit drier than they sometimes are. So that was my favourite palette of 2019, Tom Ford's Virgin Orchid. I did buy a few mascaras. The hunt for a mascara that might take over from Le Volume de Chanel as my favourite continues, because I didn't succeed in finding one. I got very excited about the Ciati one at one stage, but that turned very clumpy very quickly. So that's not a new favourite this year. I'm still buying Le Volume. I've kind of given up a bit on the liner pencils because I've got about 40 of them from Chanel. That's my favourite, so haven't really gone for any of those. I did buy a couple of the Tom Ford cream shadow pots. I'm afraid to say I think the consistency of Tom Ford's cream shadow has slipped from the originals. A number of pots which I still have from years back. They've lasted brilliantly. They're still wearable. The new ones just feel a bit more watery. They're good. They're nice, but for the price, I think they're much closer now to Charlotte Tilbury, who does perfectly good eye creams, slightly cheaper than Tom Ford. And now, if they're not made in the same factory, I'd be amazed, because they're very, very similar. And so if you're looking for a nice cream shadow, then I'd say go to Charlotte Tilbury now. So those are the eye products, really. This is quite a short video for me. I wish you all the happiest of Christmases and the healthiest, luckiest of New Year's in 2020. Until then, bye for now.